Hi everybody, welcome to Saturday Live at the Backyard Bird Center. First off, happy Mother's Day. It's Happy Mother's Day tomorrow. Been a really busy day here at the store, and that's great. Kind of got a couple things going on. The hummingbirds are returning right on time, and the Orioles have been amazing at bird feeders. So a lot of Oriole feeders going out the door today. So moms, you guys are getting a lot of Oriole feeders tomorrow. But thank you for tuning in. I entitled today's program Mark's favorite Oriole feeder. I get asked this a lot. You know, I've done one on Mark's favorite hummingbird feeder, Mark's favorite finch feeder, Mark's favorite hopper feeder. So this is in a series. We do these every so often. But I'm also going to combine this with an old program I did called the Jelly Birds. And that is birds that, other than Orioles, that visit jelly. Hint, there's a brown thrasher right there eating jelly on a feeder. But first off, I thought I would talk about, when we talk about our favorite feeders, there are three, and now we have to say four things that we are really feeding Orioles on a regular basis. It all started with whenever a Baltimore Orioles would land on hummingbird feeders and drink the sugar water from a hummingbird feeder. And then we started adapting and making bigger feeders. And so, obviously, Nectar is something that you can feed hummingbirds. This is just like a hummingbird feeder. Oriole nectar is typically 6-to-1 instead of 4-to-1 like hummingbird nectar is. But if your Oriole has ever got a taste of the hummingbird nectar at 4-to-1, you might as well put 4-to-1 in here because they know the difference and they know which is sweeter. So so this is basically a modified hummingbird feeder that you can feed nectar. If you do that and the Orioles are drinking it, that's a perfectly good feeding setup. Now the next type of feeders were addressed were fruit, and mainly citrus. Now I've got a fake bunch of grapes on here, but mostly what we do with these is we cut oranges in half, oranges in quarters, and slide them down and put several on here for them to be able to pull the pulp out of those oranges. So and you can also, I've told you many times, you can also use lemons, you can also use grapefruits. They'll eat the citrus, and there's many different ways you can do this. There's feeders. I have people who just put tack finishing nails into their deck railing and put their orange quarters on there. That works perfectly fine if the Orioles are taken to it. It's a great way to feed the Orioles. But the big hit in the last 30 years has been the grape jelly. And there's lots of ways to feed grape jelly. And a lot of people who have a combination feeder, or maybe has jelly and fruit jelly, they find that it doesn't hold enough jelly, so they like an open dish like this so they can put a lot of jelly in it. And the Orioles will either sit here on the lip, but a lot of times they'll just hang upside down and eat the jelly out of there. So jelly is a very, very big favorite of Orioles, and a lot of other different birds too. The longer we put out the jelly, the more birds we're learning will eat that grape jelly. So what's Mark's favorite Oriole feeder when it comes to that? Well, when I bought the business 20 years ago, the first bird feeder I brought in to sell here that wasn't already here was the Oriole Fest. It's been our best-selling Oriole feeder for 20 years, and I think it'll be for the next 20, because especially if you're new to feeding Orioles, this Oriole feeder is absolutely the best. That's what's in this picture right here. And you can see that there's places on top where she's got her grape jelly piled on there, but it's also a nectar feeder, like a hummingbird feeder. You can put the sugar water in there, and the holes and the perches are big enough for the Orioles to get to. Plus, you can skewer an orange on with the stem, just like she has here, and so you got orange, grape jelly, and also the sugar water. And then over time, if you need more jelly, then you can go with another jelly feeder that has more jelly to it. But if they're not really eating the jelly and only drinking the nectar, just feed the nectar. My hummingbird comes to this feeder a lot, and he will drink out of these ports as well, but he'll also lick on the jelly. Now, what I have here on top is an ant moat, or a nectar protector, and this is, ants love jelly, and so how that works is you hang your feeder from the bottom of it and you fill this with water, and when the ants come down, they can't get to your jelly, so it knocks out ants all the time. So they're an invaluable addition to any nectar feeder. If you've got sugar, ants are going to find it. So This is definitely my favorite of all time Oriole feeder. I like lots of other ones, and I have more feeders than that in my Oriole feeders in my backyard. I have 3 going at one time, but there will always be this Oriole fest in my backyard. I love it. Now, what all birds do we see at the grape jelly? Well, I did a program a long time ago called Jelly Birds, and I created this slide presentation about them, and thought I would run through those for you real fast. This is a brown thrasher. It's a mimic thrush. It's related to the catbirds and the mockingbirds, and they love the grape jelly. Look at me, he's got it all over his bill there. I don't know if you can see it, but they're a beautiful bird, and they come to the grape jelly. Let's see, what's another good one here? Oh, this is a summer tanager. Beautiful. They're starting to show up right now. People are getting pictures sent to me right now. I had one in my backyard a couple of days ago. They'll eat the citrus, and they'll also eat the grape jelly. Some years I have more summer tanagers in my backyard than I do Baltimore Orioles, so be on the lookout for those guys. Here's another one of the summer tanager on the grape jelly there, eating on that. And then, of course, the rock stars this time of year are the Orioles. This is both a Baltimore Oriole on the right, the bright orange one, and the burnt red one is an orchard Oriole, 2 different species. And they come to the feeders, they love it. The orchards are a little bit smaller than the Baltimores, and these are both the males. Now, a bird that will confuse a lot of people is the first-year male orchard Orioles, because they don't look like that. You know, they're not, when they're their first year of life, they're not burnt orange like that adult. They're this yellowish green color and this black throat. And you'll see those on the jelly this time of year. And a lot of people get confused because some field guys don't show a picture of him. They only show a picture of the adult. So that can be confusing. In my backyard the other day, I had a Scarlet Tanager. And I never did see him come down to the jelly, but he was acting like he was going to do that. He was going to come down and eat, and they will eat on the jelly. Absolutely stunningly beautiful bird. And then even birds such as the Cedar Waxwings. People have had Cedar Waxwings eat on the jelly. Now, they pretty much like the fruit. They like the fruit better, especially if you were to put out grapes and a bowl that has some berries in it. They'll eat on that as well. So, but we consider them jelly birds. And then some things that are unusual, like this guy. This is a little tiny Tennessee warbler, and he's pecking on the oranges there. So that's one we rarely see at bird feeders, but this time of year is when it's going to happen, especially in springs like we're having right now. Right now, the leaf out and the bloom is so late. The insects are very late. So a lot of these birds are coming to feeders because they have to, because it's actually... they're in desperation mode here whenever it gets this cold. I understand we're going to get a lot of south wind the next few nights, and that should bring a lot more migrants into the area. And of course, it'll push some of our migrants out. But be on the lookout for anything different at your jelly, at your oranges, and your feeders in general. It's been a really good spring for rose-breasted grosbeaks and indigo buntings at feeders as well. So it's a most beautiful time of the year to be feeding birds. I'm telling you, people who quit feeding birds because they think, oh, it's almost springtime, they don't need it. No, they're missing out on the most beautiful time of bird feeding of the year. So it's a great idea for a program. If you have ideas for future programs, please send them in. Give us a like, give us a share. Please subscribe if you're on YouTube. Until then, come on, let's talk birds.